When did you last say yes to something you desperately wanted to say no to? Not because you forgot, not because you misunderstood, because somewhere between the thought and the word, a quiet alarm went off. What if they're upset? What if they think less of me? What if this ruins everything? And so you said yes, again. And the moment they smiled, there was this small wave of relief, followed by something that felt a lot like resentment. Toward them, toward yourself. Here's what no one tells you about people pleasing. It has nothing to do with being kind. Kindness is a choice you make freely. People pleasing is what happens when no feels like a threat to your safety, not just a preference. Today, we're going through 7 signs that you might be a people pleaser. Not because something is wrong with you, but because something happened that made keep everyone happy feel like the only safe way to move through the world. Let's get into it. Sign 1. You apologize before you know what happened. Someone bumps into you. You say sorry. A friend seems quiet. You immediately assume it's your fault. You begin emails with, "Sorry to bother you," even when you have every right to be bothering them. This is what psychologists call preemptive appeasement. Apologizing not because you did something wrong, but to neutralize a potential threat before it arrives. Dr. Harriet Braiker, whose research on approval-seeking behavior became foundational in this field, found that chronic apologizers aren't insecure about specific actions. They're insecure about their right to take up space at all. Every sorry that shouldn't have been said is a small signal. I am not sure I'm allowed to exist in your way. That's not politeness. That's a nervous system on constant alert. Rand, that's just the surface, because the next sign runs even deeper. Sign 2. You feel responsible for other people's emotions. Your friend is in a bad mood. You spend the entire evening scanning for what you did. Your partner seems off. You run through every conversation from the past 3 days, looking for the moment you failed them. Someone at work seems cold. You wonder what you said. Pete Walker, a psychotherapist who spent decades studying trauma responses, identified the Fawn response, the survival instinct to manage other people's emotional states in order to feel safe. Unlike fight or flight, Fawn doesn't protect you by fighting or running. It protects you by making the other person comfortable. You learned, somewhere early, that an upset person was a dangerous person. So your nervous system built a radar, constantly scanning the emotional temperature of everyone around you, constantly making small adjustments to keep it stable. The cost? You spend so much energy managing rooms full of other people's feelings that you have almost nothing left for your own. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because the next sign is one most people would call a personality trait. Sign 3. You can't say no without guilt. You can say the word, but the feeling that follows is so heavy that you spend hours second-guessing it. Did I hurt them? Should I have just said yes? Am I being selfish? The guilt isn't about what you did. It's about the gap between what you gave and what you believe you owe. And for many people pleasers, what they believe they owe is everything. Dr. Susan Newman, a social psychologist who has studied the psychology of saying no for decades, found that many people who struggle to decline requests don't lack assertiveness. They lack permission. Permission to have preferences. Permission to prioritize themselves. Permission to be occasionally inconvenient to others. You are allowed to be inconvenient sometimes. You are allowed to disappoint people while still being a good person. Those are not contradictions. And if saying no is hard, wait until you hear what the next sign costs you in relationships. Sign 4. You change your opinion based on who you're with. Someone mentions their political view. You find yourself nodding, even if you disagree. A friend says they hate a movie you loved. Suddenly, you remember it wasn't that great. You have a different version of yourself for every person in your life, and none of them know the others exist. This isn't adaptability. This is identity erosion. Psychologist Mark Leary's research on sociometer theory found that people who grow up in emotionally unpredictable environments often develop what he calls relational chameleonism, the ability to sense what version of themselves is safest in any given room and become it. The problem isn't that you're good at reading people. The problem is that after years of shapeshifting, you may have lost track of the original shape. Sign 5. You avoid conflict. Even when you're clearly right. Someone does something that hurts you. You say nothing. Later, you replay the moment 50 times, composing the perfect response in your head, the one you'll never actually send. You tell yourself it's not worth it, that it would only make things worse. But underneath that logic is something older. If I make them upset, something bad will happen. That belief wasn't irrational once. It may have been the truest thing about the world you grew up in, but the world changed, and the belief didn't. The next sign is the one that surprises people most, because it looks like a virtue from the outside. Sign 6. You feel exhausted by your own kindness. You help everyone. You show up for everyone. You remember everyone's details and their bad days and their preferences. And sometimes, in quiet moments, you feel a resentment you're ashamed of. Why don't they do the same for me? Here's the uncomfortable truth. A significant portion of what you give, not all of it, but some of it, isn't given freely. It's given to maintain the relationship, avoid conflict, earn your place. Genuine generosity fills you up. Obligated generosity drains you. And they can look identical from the outside, but they feel completely different from inside. Sign 7. You don't know what you actually want. Someone asks, "What do you want for dinner?" and you genuinely don't know, not because the question is hard, because you've spent so long asking, "What does everyone else want?" that your own preferences have gone quiet. This is the deepest cost of chronic people-pleasing, not the exhaustion, not the resentment, but the slow erosion of self, the gradual disappearance of a person who knows what they like, what they need, what they believe. Your wants didn't disappear, they just went underground, and they're waiting. The deeper truth: none of the 7 signs you just heard are character flaws. They are adaptations, brilliant, effective adaptations built by a nervous system that was trying to keep you safe, in environments where keeping everyone happy was a survival strategy, not just a preference. The research is consistent. Dr. Gabor Mate, who has spent decades studying the relationship between childhood environment and adult behavior, found that people-pleasers are almost never simply too nice. They are people who learned that their needs were either dangerous to express or unlikely to be met, and so they found the most efficient way to get some of their needs met indirectly, by making themselves indispensable. You didn't choose this. But you can choose what comes next, because the goal isn't to stop caring what people think. The goal is to stop outsourcing your own sense of safety to other people's reactions. How many of these 7 landed closer than expected? Tell me the number in the comments. And if this helped you see the pattern more clearly, not as a flaw, but as a strategy that made sense once, in a world that's since changed, then follow Milo, because you were never too much to ask for.